everyone. Welcome to Jesus, the Gospel of Love. We are diving deep into the mystic Christ and the mystical teachings of Christ. And this is a presence of divine love that has healed the world and is one with God and is simply what is. So today I thought I would continue on with lesson number 4 from the workbook that Jesus gave us from his Course in Miracles. It's lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day, and these practice periods begin with noting the thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find, if you train yourself to look at your thoughts, that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represents your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps toward the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for the day, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about so-and-so does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment in connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We will return to them later. So how beautiful. We're beginning to see that the thoughts that cross the mind, the thoughts of consciousness, do not mean anything. These thoughts, oftentimes they're referred to singularly, like when Krishnamurti talks about thought, he's talking about ego thought. When Eckhart Tolle talks about thought, he's talking about ego thoughts. Muji talks about thought, he's talking about ego thoughts. And oftentimes these teachers will refer to the mind as the thinker of these thoughts. But actually, there are real thoughts, and these are not ego thoughts. These are thoughts that we think with God. And these thoughts are eternal. I am as God created me. I am spirit. I and the Father are one. These are thoughts of spirit. These are thoughts that are eternal. They last forever. They have no beginning. They have no end. But the thoughts that we're referring to in lesson number 4 are transitory. They're temporary. They're fleeting. They come and they go. They're inventions. They're fictitious. They're unreal. And yet they block the awareness of love's presence. So, as he's reminding us, basically that the good ones or the bad ones. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. We're coming to start to see what is the same and what is different. And all of the thoughts about time and space, and all the thoughts of the cosmos, all the thoughts of the past and the future are actually the same, because they're all egoic and therefore all unreal. So they are the same. And yet the judgment of the world tries to take some of these ego thoughts and make some of them good and some of them bad, some of them right, some of them wrong. But they're all past thoughts. And our sleeping mind is just very preoccupied with this stream of consciousness, this stream of past thoughts. So I thought in going deeper into this, I would again go back to the Manual for Teachers and move on to section 2, because we were talking a bit about teachers of God who are God's teachers, and talking also about to teach is to demonstrate. And so basically you're teaching all the time, basically by the thoughts. If you have ego thoughts, you're teaching the universe that who you are is an ego. If you have thoughts that come from the Spirit, that are lined up and come from God, the thoughts you think along with God, the eternal thoughts, we'll call them, those also are teaching who you are, that you are the Christ. So it's not really teachers and students or teachers and pupils in the sense that that's just the metaphor. That's what the world seems to believe in. The world believes in persons, personalities, personhoods, and then it starts to categorize those persons, some as teachers, some as pupils, and as Jesus told us at the beginning of the Manual for Teachers, it seems in the world, in linear time, it seems like the teachers have more than the students, or are imparting wisdom, or teaching the students something that they don't have. But as we see, as we go deeper into this metaphor, it's all mind. And teaching goes on all the time without exception. You're either teaching that you're the ego, or you're teaching that you're the Christ. And that's it. The range is set. There is no difference in teachers and pupils, in the sense that the mind is teaching, and it is either teaching wholeness and completion and spirit and oneness and love, or it's teaching fear, guilt, sin, pain, shame, separation, fragmentation, and purpose is the only choice. It's that's what you find in the mind as you go deep, deep, deep into the mind. It's like, who are you going to call? Who are you going to serve? Who are you believing in? Who are you valuing? It's basically your right mind or your wrong mind, and this is the conversion. This is the seeming context or conversion of coming to blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are those who think with God. Cursed are those illusions that seem to offer a witness against love. But those are unreal. So ultimately, teach only love, for that is what you are. Teach with God. Teach only love, for that is what you are. So we're going to the second section here of the Manual for Teachers. The first one we went over yesterday, who are God's teachers? Now we're on to who are their pupils. Certain pupils have been assigned to each of God's teachers, and they will begin to look for him as soon as he has answered the call. They were chosen for him because the form of the universal curriculum that he will teach is the best for them in view of their level of understanding. His pupils have been waiting for him, for his coming is certain. Again, it is only a matter of time. Once he has chosen to fulfill his role, they are ready to fulfill theirs. Time waits on his choice, but not on whom he will serve. When he is ready to learn, the opportunities to teach will be provided for him. So that last sentence says a lot. When he is ready to learn, the opportunities to teach will be provided for him. When you're willing, when you're open to teach what you would learn, the opportunities are provided. And there are many. Seemingly, as you experience the world as linear, there will seem to be many opportunities, situation after situation, encounter after encounter, event after event, even moment after moment in your mind. Remember, you're teaching with your thoughts, and so what seem to be different situations and circumstances are really nothing more than opportunities to teach what you would learn. When he is ready to learn, the opportunities to teach will be provided for him. How wonderful, how helpful, how delightful. In order to understand the teaching-learning plan of salvation, it is necessary to grasp the concept of time that the Course sets forth. Atonement corrects illusions, not truth. Therefore, it corrects what never was. Further, the plan for this correction was established and completed simultaneously, for the will of God is entirely apart from time. So is all reality being of him. The instant the idea of separation entered the mind of God's Son, in that same instant was God's answer given. In time, this happened very long ago. In reality, it never happened at all. The world of time is the world of illusion. What happened long ago seems to be happening now. Choices made long since appear to be open, yet to be made. What has been learned and understood and long ago passed by is looked upon as a new thought, a fresh idea, a different approach. Because your will is free, you can accept what has already happened at any time you choose, and only then will you realize that it was always there. As the Course emphasizes, you are not free to choose the curriculum or even the form in which you will learn it. You are free, however, to decide when you want to learn it, and as you accept it, it is already learned. So there's a lot there, but let's just focus on the word simultaneous. That's it. It's simultaneous. Yeah. The instant the idea of separation entered the mind of God's Son, in that same instant was God's answer given. In time, this happened very long ago. In reality, it never happened at all. So this is, again, bringing cause and effect together and seeing the cause and effect are never apart. In heaven, God is the cause, Christ is the effect, and the cause and effect are together in spirit as one. In this world, cause and effect, the mind is causative, and in the end we find out that only the mind is causative, and then in the end we see that, again, that there is only mind. Everything is just an idea or a thought. Ideas leave not their source. So, we're free to remember that, experience that, and accept atonement. That see that it's all simultaneous. Time really then goes backward to an instant so ancient that it is beyond all memory and past even the possibility of remembering. Yet because it is an instant that is relived again and again, and still again, it seems to be now. And thus it is that pupil and teacher seem to come together in the present, finding each other as if they had not met before. The pupil comes at the right time to the right place. This is inevitable because he made the right choice in that ancient instant which he now relives. So has the teacher too made an inevitable choice out of an ancient past. God's will in everything but seems to take time in the working out. What could delay the power of eternity? When pupil and teacher come together, a teaching-learning situation begins, where the teacher is not really the one who does the teaching. God's teacher speaks to any two who join together for learning purposes. The relationship is holy because of that purpose, and God has promised to send His Spirit into any holy relationship. In the teaching-learning situation, each one learns that giving and receiving are the same. The demarcations they have drawn between their roles, their minds, their bodies, their needs, their interest, and all the differences they thought separated them from one another, fade and grow dim and disappear. Those who would learn the same course share one interest and one goal, and thus he who was the learner becomes a teacher of God himself, for he has made the one decision that gave his teacher to him. He has seen in another person the same interest as his own. So how beautiful, the demarcations they have drawn between their roles, their minds, their bodies, their needs, their interests, and all the differences they thought separated them from one another, fade and grow dim and disappear. There's the plan of awakening. Not taking the differences serious, not believing in the differences, not believing in any differences, not making any exceptions to the idea that we are the same one. We are the Christ. We have forever been the Christ, an idea in the mind of God, a perfect idea in the mind of God. How glorious. What are the levels of teaching? The teachers of God have no set teaching level. Each teaching-learning situation involves a different relationship at the beginning, although the ultimate goal is always the same, to make of the relationship a holy relationship, in which both can look upon the Son of God as sinless. There is no one from whom a teacher of God cannot learn, so there is no one whom he cannot teach. However, from a practical point of view, he cannot meet everyone, nor can everyone meet him, find him. Therefore, the plan includes very specific contacts to be made for each teacher of God. There are no accidents in salvation. Those who are to meet will meet, because together they have the potential for a holy relationship. They are ready for each other. In the simplest level of teaching appears to be quite superficial. It consists of what seem to be very casual encounters, a chance meeting of two apparent strangers in an elevator, a child who is not looking where he is going, running into an adult by chance, two students happening to walk home together. These are not chance encounters. Each of them has the potential for becoming a teaching-learning situation. Perhaps the seeming strangers in the elevator will smile to one another. Perhaps the adult will not scold the child for bumping into him. Perhaps the students will become friends. Even at the level of the most casual encounter, it is possible for two people to lose sight of separate interests, if only for a moment. That moment will be enough. Salvation has come. It is difficult to understand that the levels of teaching the Universal Course is a concept as meaningless in reality as is time. The illusion of one permits the illusion about the other. In time, the teacher of God seems to begin to change his mind about the world with a single decision, and then learns more and more about the new direction as he teaches it. We have covered the illusion of time already, but the illusion of levels of teaching seems to be something different. Perhaps the best way to demonstrate that these levels cannot exist is simply to say that any level of the teaching-learning situation is part of God's plan for atonement, and his plan can have no levels, being a reflection of his will. Salvation is always ready and always there. God's teachers work at different levels, but the result is always the same. Each teaching-learning situation is maximal in the sense that each person involved will learn the most that he can from the other person at that time. In this sense, and in this sense only, we can speak of levels of teaching. Using the term in this way, the second level of teaching is a more sustained relationship in which, for a time, two people enter into a fairly intense teaching-learning situation and then appear to separate. As with the first level, these meetings are not accidental, nor is what appears to be the end of the relationship a real end. Again, each has learned the most he can at the time. Yet all who meet will someday meet again, for it is the destiny of all relationships to become holy. God is not mistaken in his Son. The third level of teaching occurs in relationships which, once they are formed, are lifelong. These are teaching-learning situations in which each person is given a chosen learning partner who presents him with unlimited opportunities for learning. These relationships are generally few because their existence implies that those involved have reached a stage simultaneously in which the teaching-learning balance is actually perfect. This does not mean that they necessarily recognize this. In fact, they generally do not. They may even be quite hostile to each other for some time, and perhaps for life. Yet should they decide to learn it, the perfect lesson is before them and can be learned. And if they decide to learn that lesson, they become the saviors of the teachers who falter and may even seem to fail. No teacher of God can fail to find the help he needs. So beautiful. And we can start to see that the lesson later on in the workbook, I Rest in God, is really just a call to go deep inside into the stillness, into the oneness, and to lay aside all thoughts of this world, because even when we look at those metaphors of teachers of God or pupils, students, even when we look at the level of as if persons or learners, even if we look at the level, this is all within the level of the belief in linear time. And remember, the plan of atonement is simultaneous. Once the belief in separation arose, it was answered immediately by the Holy Spirit. So time is not a factor in atonement. The plan of atonement is undoing or releasing what never was. It's simply seeing illusions for what they are and then letting them go. That's all the plan of awakening is about. It's just seeing the false as false. It's not complicated in the sense that it is all available in the holy instant. This course could be summarized in opening to the holy instant and practicing the holy instant. And then Jesus has already told us in chapter 15 that you cannot prepare for the holy instant without placing it in the future. So he does say you approach the holy instant through your desire. Truth will be returned to your awareness by your desire, as it was lost by your desire for something else. It can't get any simpler than that. Or there's a workbook lesson, my self is ruler of the universe. My Christ self is ruler of the universe. It is impossible that anything should come to me unbidden by myself, by my mind. Even in this world, it is I who rule my destiny. Again, mind. What happens is what I desire, and what does not occur is what I do not want to happen. And in the end, we have to really go fully into the atonement, the correction, which is the awareness that the separation never happened. We can't believe that we will be able to forgive something that actually really happened. If form is real, and the body is real, and error is real, then that's saying that sin is real. And the teachings of the Course are nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Spirit cannot be threatened, and there is nothing else other than spirit. Only love is real. God is love. This is an awakening to remembering God's love and remembering our identity as pure spirit, as the Christ. That's it. It doesn't get any simpler than that. We're just reviewing the workbook lessons here, and we're on lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. And basically, that is just saying that nothing unreal exists. So the thoughts of time and space, the thoughts of past and future, which God did not create, they have no meaning whatsoever. And the present moment, the holy instant, the I am presence is real, it's true, and it is everything. And the past and the future are nothing. Think about that. If you have anxiety, what are you anxious about except the belief in the past and the future? If you're worrisome, the belief in the past and the future. If you feel guilty, if you have regrets, if you have grievances, the belief in the past and the future. It can't get any simpler than now you are free. I am as God created me. I am spirit. I am as God created me. That is the simplest, most joyful thought that there ever will be, because in the end it's the only thought that is real and true. It's the only thought that's meaningful. I am as God created me is the salvation of the world, because the world disappears in the reality of God's love. Perfect love casts out fear. Nothing real can be threatened. Perfect love casts out fear. Nothing unreal exists. Perfect love casts out fear. Herein lies the peace of God. Perfect love and the peace of God are the same. The joy of God is the same. It's just all very singular and very simple. It's extremely simple. It's absolutely simple. It's like the angels are like, did you get it yet? Do you see this? Do you see the simplicity of salvation? Do you see it? Do you see it? Do you see it? We want to say, yes, it's perfectly clear. Claro, yes, I understand. So, yeah, thank you for joining me in mind. Thank you for joining me in heart. I just was listening, I think yesterday, to that beautiful song from the Beatles. Let me take you down, 'cause we're going to strawberry fields. Nothing is real, and there's nothing to get hung about. Strawberry fields forever. I love that song. Of course, that's why one of the reasons we call our strawberry festival Music and Enlightenment Festival. Music, movies, and enlightenment. It's there's nothing to get hung about. These thoughts do not mean anything. In Beatle terms, Beatle terminology, there's nothing to get hung about. Don't get hung up on ego thoughts. And all of the thoughts across your consciousness that are positive or negative, that are seemingly good or bad, no. Nothing is real. There's nothing to get hung about. Kingdom of heaven forever. God's kingdom is forever. We're retranslating the song now into Jesus terminology. Gotta love the Christ. So thank you, Mystic Christ, for these beautiful teachings. Thank you for the Beatitudes. Thank you for your joy, your love, your compassion, your wonder. Thank you for all the gifts that you have given us, representing our Creator and what our Creator's true essence really is. And that's why we can say, I adore God, because I adore my Creator. You know, that's a simple statement of it. Have a beautiful, holy instant. I'll meet you there.